The old man crashed through the royal orchard with 2 guards at his heels. Torches split the dark. Fig leaves flashed silver. A clay jar rolled in the grass, spilling wine that smelled too sweet for any mortal cellar. "Stop him," a guard shouted. The stranger only laughed. It was a broken, bubbling sound, like water under stone. He staggered past the pomegranate trees, clutching the reed flute in one hand and dragging ivy behind him, as if the vines had grown from his skin. King Midas came barefoot from the palace steps, a bronze dagger in his fist, his wool cloak thrown over one shoulder. Then the stranger fell, not like a drunk, like a man struck by an invisible hand. He landed beneath the oldest fig tree, face down in the dust. The guards raised their spears, but Midas lifted one hand. Wait, the orchard went still. A goat bleated somewhere beyond the wall. The flute in the stranger's fingers gave one thin note by itself. Midas knelt. The man smelled of grapes, smoke, and rain on hot stone. "Little Mita," the stranger murmured. Midas froze. No one had called him that since childhood. The old man's fingers locked around his wrist. Dionysus is already coming. Midas tried to pull free, but the old man's grip held with terrifying strength. The guard shifted closer, spear points shining near the stranger's ribs. "Do not harm him," Midas said. "My king, he broke the sealed jars, and still he breathes under my roof tonight." They carried him inside on a wool blanket, through smoky corridors past painted beams and bronze bowls. The stranger sang in his sleep. No melody stayed whole. Each note bent like a road disappearing into hills. By dawn, the palace priests had gathered. Ivy had threaded itself around the guest chamber door. The treasurer whispered that feeding a madman would shame the throne. The chief priest whispered another name, Silenus. Midas heard it and felt the room tilt. For 9 days he gave the old satyr warm baths, clean robes, honey cakes, roasted lamb, and wine poured into polished cups. Servants trembled when water jars fermented overnight. Goats knelt in the courtyard. Laughter echoed from empty halls. Zoe, Midas's daughter, watched from behind a curtain. "Father, do gods reward kindness?" Midas did not answer quickly enough. On the 10th dawn, Silenus opened clear eyes. Outside, grapevines split the courtyard stones. Silenus sat upright as if the wine had left his blood all at once. "You have entertained a god's beloved," he said. "Now pray the god does not love you back too much." By noon, Midas was walking beside him beyond the palace walls. The road climbed into dry Phrygian hills where pine resin thickened the air and goat bells clicked over stones. Shepherds bowed when they saw the king, but their faces were hollow. Grain sacks hung nearly flat in their sheds. A child scraped burnt barley from a pot with 2 fingers. Midas looked away, then looked back. Wealth, he thought, was not greed if it could silence hunger. At an abandoned shrine, the wind stopped. Animal masks hung from the trees. Ivy crawled over sun-bleached skulls. A beautiful traveler stood among the shadows, crowned with green leaves, smiling as if he knew the taste of every secret. Silenus bowed. Nisus understood. Dionysus stepped closer. "You returned what was mine. Ask." The king's mouth dried. "Rain, peace, wisdom. Let whatever I touch become gold." The god's smile softened into pity. "Everything, Midas." The king reached for a brittle twig. The dry branch brightened beneath his fingers. Bark became metal. Splinters became sunlight. Even the dust on his thumb flashed yellow. Midas laughed once. Too loudly. By sunset, he stormed into his banquet hall like a conqueror returning from battle. He touched a wool curtain, gold, a wooden cup, gold, a rough stone from the courtyard, gold, a rough stone from the courtyard, gold. Courtiers fell to their knees. The treasurer wept into his beard. "Phrygia is saved," Midas whispered. Then hunger came. He lifted bread to his mouth. It hardened against his teeth. Grapes struck the plate like tiny coins. Wine froze in his cup before it touched his tongue. His stomach clenched. He grabbed the table edge. Gold ran outward from his hand, swallowing wood grain, stains, knife marks, everything human. Servants backed away. "Bring cloth," he ordered. They wrapped his hands. The linen stiffened into shining plates. Zoe entered barefoot, her small face wet with tears. "Father?" Midas stumbled backward. "Stay away." She shook her head. "No, Zoe, please." But she ran toward him, arms open. Midas threw himself against the banquet table. Bronze dishes crashed. Golden fruit scattered across the floor. Zoe stopped an arm's length away, sobbing, while her father curled his cursed hands against his chest. Before dawn, he fled the palace barefoot, starving and shaking. The hills cut his feet. Cold wind scraped his throat. At the ruined shrine, he fell into the dust. "Take it back." Dionysus emerged from the ivy without a sound. "The gift showed you what you worshipped." Midas lowered his head. "I wanted to save them and own salvation." The god pointed east. "Wash in the Bactylus. Leave your hunger there." Midas ran until reeds brushed his knees and pale water shivered under morning mist. He plunged both hands into the river. Pain burned up his arms. Gold dust streamed from his skin, spinning through the current like sunlight broken into pieces. Then the water went clear. And when Midas returned, Zoe stood in the courtyard. He held out trembling hands. She stepped into them. Warmth, breath, life. Midas closed his arms around his daughter and wept, while far behind him the river glittered with the last trace of his terrible wish.